I can, but don't say anything. Don't even talk. Don't say nothing. Don't say nothing. I got to start here. First of all, it's a great pleasure for me to have Ken Byron. And why is this? For me. And Ken, I'm going to state all these things, and after my last thing, I'll give you the nod to go ahead and you can speak. For me, Ken Byron, you're mysterious. Okay? You're very intriguing. With all the different tobacco names, the artists, you're like the man. You're a man of the world, a little like James Bond, and you actually do have a license to kill. You sell tobacco. You seem to me well read. You're very unavailable, which makes you extremely attractive. And I just took a look at you right now, and you're even good looking. So, Ken, what's your problem?
My problem today is blue light. So pardon me. I'm going to wear these. I'm not trying to be some kind of Silicon Valley douchey guy or anything like that, but it gets very bright in this room. And these really help me make eye contact with the camera.
And so, you're even stylish. You're just, what does Bono have that you don't have? You know what I'm saying?
I was in India a few weeks back, and the locals there I was hanging with gave me this outfit. So I thought I'd wear it today. And I'll send them a thumbnail whenever this video comes out to say, look, I wore it.
Ken, it's a pleasure. It really is for me. I've been trying to get in touch with you for 2 years. It's a little bit difficult trying to find you. Your face is nowhere to be seen on the interweb. And is this purposely done?
Yeah. Earlier for different reasons. I'm just privacy minded. But later, yeah. Can I give a long answer to this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Later. Just to be honest, I noticed there's a big difference between the videos you see coming from Japan and the ones you see coming from America. In Japan, a lot of the videos I watch don't have the person making the video in the frame. It's here's what's going on. They're very interesting. They'll be well edited. Maybe it's a cooking video. Maybe it's a walking tour of some city or something, but you're not blah, 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 blah. You know, they're showing the scene, and the art in the video is making something interesting without all that noise and chatter, right? I'm, try to get out of my narcissistic phase as much as possible and tame my own ego. And when I started watching, what's, the content coming out of some of these other countries, which, to be honest, have a little bit more cohesion than we do, doing a little bit better than we are societally. The people aren't in the videos. Like the group level of narcissism that you see is much lower in Japan than in America. And I don't think that's very controversial to say, probably, if you think about it.
No, it's actually a very, very interesting sociological, I don't want to say study, but for lack of a better word, a sociological
I'd rather be the quiet guy running a quiet little shop that doesn't even do any marketing than be out there. Hey, I'm Ken. I'm the brand. It's about me. Look at me. Just for me personally, that's how I see it right now.
I was going to ask you, and I'm going to jump around, Ken, because I'm hyperactive. Okay, so
no, it's fine. You can chop this up however you want later.
I just finished smoking a Roman Legion. So, I mean, I was a little bit stoned off it about 45 minutes ago, but now I'm back to my hyperactivity, By the way, what are you smoking?
Sir Walter Raleigh Aromatic.
Sincerely?
Yeah.
I didn't expect that from Ken Byron.
Well, it's probably obvious, but I'm a Gen Xer. I grew up when we still had the codger section in the Woolworths, and the kids could just walk by it, and you smelled all this tobacco at face level as a kid walking past it, all these bags. I think they were the brand. Emerald Gold or something like that was their store brand or something. I forget. But It wasn't behind the counter back then. It was just out on the shelves.
Yeah, yeah.
And these blends, when I open that bag and smell it, that pouch, they really take me back to a time and a place, you know?
Okay, because it's funny because, Ken, you seem to me like a very down-to-earth spiritual guy who does not wouldn't drink like a Coors Light beer because Coors does whatever to the world, or little Indian kids brewing the beer, this and this and that. But you're smoking Walter Raleigh aromatics. It's a bit of a contradiction.
I never tried it before, and I've had a pouch for a while, and I've been taking bowls out of it for over a year. And just now it's gotten to the really super dry point where you can almost smoke it without tamping it, you know? And I just wanted to see what it was like because I never tried it.
And are you enjoying it?
You know, it's just okay. A lot of aromatics have a flavor I ascribe as pipe tobacco.
Yeah.
Which means when you're smoking it, you can basically zone out and not even pay attention.
Right.
And it's great for being on interview, stuff like that, late at night when you don't want to think about your smoke, when you're not trying to like sit there and really pay attention to it. You know, aromatics, a lot of people hate them, but I find they're really good late night smokes when you're just watching something on your tablet, maybe outside, and don't want to think.
You and Russ Willett said the same thing. And it's Walter Raleigh. It was Walter Raleigh that I asked him about. And the same thing with you. You don't want to think about it. So you just shove a pipe in your mouth and you just want to flake, meaning that, I don't know, you're reading a book or something. But why would you put a pipe in your mouth for shoving a pipe in your mouth? Why don't you? For me, smoking a pipe is, for example, and I'm not trying to throw flowers at you. I've had a hard day at work. I work at an old folks home, you know, so it's really disheartening. And I have a hard day at work. And what am I thinking of? I'm going to go home. I'm going to have maybe a port, but a light port. And I'm going to smoke some Van Gogh. And for me, that's my flaking out, but I'm enjoying the flaking out. I want to be in the Van Gogh port, this whole Ken Byron thing, because for me, it's romantic. Tobaccos, it's a romantic thing. So I don't understand. You and Russ Willett, you want to shove a pipe in your mouth. Why don't you put a patch on? I don't get it.
I like the pipe in itself. I mean, I like the act, right? For you, you've set up a reward. You've given yourself a North Star, right? And that is, as long as you give your bird brain something positive to focus on in the future, right? You're setting up a good reward system for yourself to keep, you know, it keeps your morale up when you're going through the tough times of the day, right? And that's how you use it. And for me, I would ask you the same way. How could you do that? For me, when you run a pipe business, you would be shocked at how little time you get to smoke your pipe versus how much you think you would, for one thing. So sometimes you're smoking and it's just because you finally have 30 minutes and gosh darn it, you're going to have a smoke. You get into those kind of situations. It's sometimes I feel like I'm really just surfing at the top of a big wave and trying to keep, you know, balanced. And if I can actually get 30 minutes up there, stable enough to have a smoke, I'm lucky.
Who's Mr. Christian?
Mr. Christian actually worked with me at another venture. He was my intern there, and he got hired on there at that venture, and we went on a lot of adventures together. And I probably spent almost a summer in England traveling around with him, having to fix stuff, and like experiencing English culture through our eyes together for the first time, right? So he was my travel buddy. And when I started this venture, he was always, he cut the original Jupiter slices. He was always, like the first year I was in business, he and I were working in a little room at that time doing the work, watching Always Sunny episodes on a little tablet with a Bluetooth speaker while we were cramped and bagging tobacco, doing all the stuff, you know. And later, he lives in, well, I shouldn't say where he lives now. He lives a few states away now. He got a good job at GitHub, and he's been away for a while, so there's not been any new Mr. Christian blends. But I keep the name because, you know, it's part of my DNA now.
I got you. Okay, and who's Embry?
Man, I needed some help. And at the time, I was so busy, I was having to get my groceries shopped for me because that's how busy I was, right? There's a time value of money. And the time I was spending on, like, my, you know, between my efforts, I just had to, like, farm it out. And the lady who was shopping the groceries for me did a really good job, right? Like, thorough. She had hustle. The reason why she was shopping groceries was she hated corporate jobs and couldn't do it anymore.
Well, I mean, the way you're talking, haven't you had enough, Ken? Haven't you paid enough taxes? Don't you want to relax? Don't you want to retire right now? And if you're financially able to, why don't you?
I've been thinking about that a lot lately, actually. I've been thinking about becoming a U.S. expat and leaving the country altogether.
And where would you go?
Anywhere where the food is safer. Let me put it that way. I've got criteria. I've been doing a lot of research. There's a YouTube channel called Nomad Capital, and it's all about people who basically take their money and go elsewhere. So, you know, I've thought about it, but honestly, I still like what I'm doing. I still like making tobacco blends. I still like this. It's getting harder and harder and harder, though, to navigate American modernity safely, if that makes sense. Like, the amount of money you spend insulating yourself from the ill effects of modernity are crazy. Whether it's having to go to Whole Foods to shop, you can't just buy food anymore. You have to have an encyclopedia in food safety to know how to read the labels. Food's generally safer in Europe. I generally eat more liberally when I go to other countries. But it's getting to the point where, you know, you have to be rich to be healthy in America.
You're damn right.
I'm just young guys. It's almost getting to where you have to be rich to be healthy in America.
It's unbelievable.
The amount you have to spend on the right foods, living close to a rural county where there's farmer markets is the best thing ever.
Absolutely.
Know your farmer isn't just BS. It's a legit thing.
You're damn straight.
And when they say you are what you eat, that is very, very literal, young guys.
Yes.
You don't see it at first, but over time, like I go scuba diving on a little Dutch island, and the Dutch got into sunflower oil big time, and they've become a snack culture. You know, when I used to go to Holland, there's all these, you know, skinny little Dutch girls in their high-waisted jeans, and they can wear mom jeans that are loose because they're so skinny and they're riding their bikes. Now you go over there, and they all have seed oil butts, you know, and it's like they're transforming the way they look generally over time through, like, what, you know, the changes they've introduced to their dietary culture. And it's kind of weird seeing, you know, this push towards these industrial oils and what they're doing to people. It's gross to me, you know. The sad part about travel is you notice a lot of things because you always see the differences between the countries, and then you ask yourself what's different. Right. So in Holland, they're still generally less obese than we are in America, but they're starting to get they're where we were in the 90s, obesity wise, when they used to be like the 50s. So I'm kind of watching this global health thing unfurl, and I'm like, at what point does someone hit the stop button on all this crap? You know, but I can't change it.
No.
And that's why Zen is very good for me, because I have to remind myself it might not even matter. Yeah, there's a lot of pills they talk about on the internet: red pills, black pills, white pills, stuff like that. I don't know if you've ever heard of any of those, but I made up one that I call the fish pill. I came up with it when I was scuba diving. And that was one time I was illegally diving a, what do you call it? The plant where they filter the water, desalinization plant.
Okay.
Because at the desalinization plant, there was an area you could swim into where fresh water and salt water were kind of mixing, and it gets kind of grainy.
Okay.
And it's a cool effect, and there's a lot of biodiversity that we find there. But we were diving there, and suddenly we start hearing this thing. It sounded like a freight train. We couldn't figure out what it was. We thought, we're like, did the desal plant come alive in response to us? Or is a giant robot claw about to come out and grab us? Like, we didn't know. We're like, we're just looking at each other like, what is that? And then suddenly I see something dark coming towards us. It's a school of tiny fish. And it was a gigantic, and it was almost like you would have thought, zoomed further out, it would have looked like there was just a giant eel floating through the water. You know? And
you heard this? You heard this?
All of them like flapping at the same time. There are so many of them, it actually made noise. You heard a like it was, but they passed us by, and I was like, wow, what are the chances that, you know, what are the chances? And seeing them though, and seeing that uniformity in the way they moved, it made me, you know, my first joke after I got out of the water was, I bet every one of those fish thought he was an individual. Because I'm a Gen X, I'm going to be ironic, contrarian, whatever.
Yeah,
so I couldn't just enjoy the fish moment. I had to be snarky. Culturally, I did what I was expected to. But it came to me later on that most of humanity is probably a lot like a school of fish, but we can chatter. And there's probably some of us that can kind of see where the fish are going, and we notice, but we're the outliers really. And the school is going to do what the school is going to do. And if you stress about it, you're just going to be a stressed out fish who notices. So, which isn't to say that current trends are hopeless, right? But to say that you shouldn't stress about it. You should live your best life. You should move somewhere where you have good neighbors. You should move somewhere where you like your neighbors, where you enjoy talking to them, where every day is fantastic. Live somewhere where you have great neighbors and a job that pays enough to live there. Because if you have those two things, you're going to be happy.
Yes, you will be happy.
Happiness is living somewhere where you have great neighbors. And that's like, I think a lot of people my age are starting to get to the point where they realize that's the truth now. And they realize the you know, the bigger things in life. And we're rapidly trying to pass down that wisdom to the younger guys because they're all worried about conquering the world. And we're like, we already tried it. It was lousy. It turned out horrible.
They have to go through it, man. They have to go through it. It's I don't think you can sell that experience.
Well, you know, Spengler called it Faustian man, right? He said that the culture of Western man was very Faustian. We always have to double everything. We have to increase it. We always have to be expanding. And it's some, you know, I'm like, what about middle age? Do we get a little bit less Faustian then? So, well, I forget where I was going with that. Except
you're talking about basically the rat race. Why do you travel so much?
Tobacco isn't the only thing I do, right?
Okay.
I love to travel for tobacco when I can. I missed Chicago this year. That was unfortunate. Probably doing Las Vegas though this year. And I've just always had to travel for the other things I do. It's just purely business. I mean, some of it is personal. I do travel for myself too. Like I go scuba diving. I go once a year. I've been going for 20 years with one of my friends. He doesn't smoke. It's okay though. I think, you know, young men should find friends who want to go out and do things.
Hey, are you going to the Albany one-day pipe show? I forget what it's called exactly, but there's something happening in September. I don't know how far or where you're going to be in September.
I'll have to look. Like late August, I'm going to be out of the country for a week, right? Going into, is it Labor Day weekend, or is that first week of September? So if it's later in September, I might be able to go. I have to go up to New York more often these days for business stuff, not tobacco business. So sometimes I piggyback things together.
Okay. And when you do travel, for tobacco, I really like your tobaccos, Ken. There's something I have 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, probably 12 blends of yours. And did you add to my last order a pack of what do you call them? Pipe cleaners? Did you do that?
It was probably an accident. Congratulations on the free cleaners.
No, then I owe you $3, $4, whatever it is.
I don't worry about it.
Anyways, I mean, maybe it's me. Maybe I clicked on give it to me or whatever. But I really like your tobaccos. I really like your Virginias. And I was ignorantly, probably here, disappointed when you said that you had, where is it? Oh yeah, there it is. This is your first Cornell and Deal. You bought stuff from Cornell and Deal. And I was thinking, look, I like Cornell and Deal. They've got their thing, but Ken Byron's got his thing. Why would he want to screw it up and bring someone else into the picture? Because I
source tobacco from everyone. And I've always sourced tobacco actually from Laudisi Group as well. But this is the first blend exclusively using their tobacco, exclusively using their Virginians specifically.
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
It's no big secret that the basic product is their flake cut Virginia, right? It's just my preparation of it. Now, they didn't have it for wholesale for quite a long time because I've been looking out. I've always wanted to do something with their Virginia flake basic product.
Okay.
And then finally, it's probably so, it was probably in demand, so high in demand for so long, the bulk that, they just didn't have it available, but it was just time and opportunity. I've always wanted to actually do something with it.
So, but you get, if I'm not mistaken, and I probably am, a lot of your Virginias from Africa.
I wouldn't say a lot. I'd like to use African Virginias to season a few blends, but it's usually as a minority component of the overall tobaccos. And those don't come directly from Africa, right? They come through some processor distributor and some wholesaler, usually part of some Virginia blend, bulk, dark, type bulk rate. So I have no contacts in Africa. I've never been to Africa. I still want to visit Africa.
Okay.
But there's probably about 5 blends on the menu now that use some sort of African varietal, but it's always in a very small amount, like less than 30% usually. Does
Van Gogh have any African Virginia in it?
Yes.
Yes. You see? Yes. I'm happy you said that.
It has Virginias from like all the continents. I mean, when it comes down to it, which is one of the tricks they use when they're making the plug, is just to use a whole bunch of stuff to get a uniform flavor that's different than any of them, right? But yeah, it's got all continents. Now, it's not the dark, strong stuff that I used to season the other blends, but you know, it's African Virginia.
Okay. And I want to talk about your Uzumaki. You got me into Junji Ito because of your tobacco, and I knew about the spiral stuff, but I thought, wow, look how much detail this guy went into to create this tobacco. I mean, firstly, it's a wonderful tobacco, and I smoke it while reading the book because that's how ridiculous I am. And it's even you've even spun it into curls, and I thought, look at the detail this guy puts into his stuff, man.
When we do the rub, sometimes we get the curls really good. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes it almost winds up a ribbon, depending on, you know, how much we have to toss it for the humidity.
Yeah.
Because there's a drying effect going on too. Like one time someone said, is there supposed to be like, you know, and there's supposed to be like little pieces or something in here? And they showed me that it looked like it was all almost ribbon.
Right.
From the rub we had done here is that process. But yeah, I like,
Ken, going back to the tobacco thing, Bee Frog, which lit up a little thing. Is this an homage to the McClellans?
Honestly, no.
Oh, okay.
It's, you know, it started out one thing and became another thing, right? We were trying to come up with, I really loved Wind in the Willows. When I was a kid, I loved that book. I loved adaptions of it. And, you know, the cute little artistic renditions of the animals were always charming to me. Wind in the Willows always had, anytime that anyone did art of the little animals in it, it was always really, well, the style was very, very unique, and I really liked it. And I always wanted to have a blend. Okay, it was inspired by McClellan, but indirectly. Okay, let me hear this out. I always liked the Frogmorton that married the frog.
Yep.
And it was just so charming, right? And I wanted something charming, a little bit Beatrix Potter style. And I was working on this concept of a Virginia blend where instead of Perique, it's cut with some really interesting burley, right? For a whole different set of flavors. A whole different note than the typical over-under blend, which is what I'm kind of calling that now, where you have this Virginia overlayer and then this deep bass note. But I was working on that blend concept and that art concept at the same time, and I'm thinking, okay, what's really peaty? Like a peat bog, going hunting in England like a traditional English hunter, but what if it's one of the Beatrix Potter little animal or something, and it's like something's peaty hunt. And you start workshopping names, and you know, it's like go with different animals, and it just wound up Bee Frog. It sounded right. It clicked into place when we did it, and that's how that concept actually came together.
He's got a hell of a gun, that frog, man. Holy moly! Looks like a World War I. I don't want to mess with that guy. I tell you that much. And
Embry. We were talking about her earlier.
Yes.
She was shopping my groceries, and I asked her, let's go back to it. Shopping my groceries, and I asked her, how much would it take for you to stop doing like shipped orders for a couple of hours and help me with tobacco stuff? And she gave me a rate, and I gave her a number that was a little bit higher than that. And she started working for me. And she's an artist. She's a leather worker. She's got a lot of skills. And obviously, it's made a big difference to the shop having her around.
It's part of the mystique of KBV, man. I mean, who's the artist?
That's her.
I see. Okay, I've forgotten. I asked that question a while ago.
We can edit.
She's
we've been talking for a long time, so now we're at the point where we'll go and slip. But it's cool.
She's the image that she's created for Ken Byron ventures is fantastic, man. And that's why I asked you, what's going to happen when Ken Byron is no more, man? I mean, some of this stuff has to go on. That you gotta.
If someone else is willing to like let me develop blends for them, but they absorb all the risk and liability, I'm fine with that, man. That'd be awesome.
Why don't you make a proposition? Make a proposition to the mobsters in Law DC, man.
Nah, I'm more of a.
Let's get back to the tobacco here. Petey Hunt, very interesting that you are pedifying Burley. How do you do that?
Let me think about how much I want to give you in response to that.
Okay,
actually, the whole process is actually known by two other tobacconists because I kind of developed the idea with them. Well, you use them as a sounding board, right? We were all dealing with the Perique outage, and we were like, what to do? And I'm like, let's make new condiment tobaccos to pair with Virginia instead of worrying about that we're out of Perique, or trying to create a Burley that tastes more like Perique, right? Perique is Burley. It's barrel fermented Burley.
That's right.
It comes from the local region that they're in, so it tastes like the Burley from that region that's been barrel fermented. Now, replicating those flavors, you can use different food vinegars, different stuff, different oils, etc., to try to get those flavors that you get from Perique. So that'd be one way. Yeah, and I was like, it could drive you mad trying to replicate all the flavors of Perique without actually fermenting something in a barrel. So I was like, what flavors are interesting? And it was actually John David of Country Squire who said, I like malty flavors. And in my head, I'm like, scotches, like there's some very, very peaty, malty scotches.
Mm-hmm.
So you're probably going to reverse intuit that there's probably some sort of scotch in the process, probably very peaty, and you'd probably be correct. But more than that, I don't really want to talk about the process.
Okay.
Because it's still one of those things where
you're developing.
Yeah, it's still developing, and I don't want to talk about it too much.
But that's very, very interesting. Very, very interesting.
Blending playlist was a song called Saturdays by Broken Bells. It just came up in the algorithm for me, and I liked it.
Okay.
I listen to, I find a lot of stuff via the algorithm these days, to be honest.
Yeah, me too. Same thing, man.
And it's doing a pretty good job. Of course, when I was young, there was this station called MTV on cable. And the songs you knew were the ones on it. And that was all you had. That and the radio. And now I have this algorithm bringing me fantastic music by bands who aren't even that commercially successful, even in some cases. But it's like the algorithm will find you better stuff than Lizzo, for sure. The algorithm finds me a lot of interesting things. I guess it's mostly going to be new wave rock type stuff these days.
You're talking Spotify, right? Talking Spotify?
I use the heck out of Spotify.
Okay, yeah, me too.
Yeah. I got into a type of music I wouldn't recommend to anyone unless they're doing high intensity workouts called Frenchcore. It's just too boom, 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 boom for anything but actually being in that kind of flow state, if you get my meaning. It will take you out of any other kind of flow state unless you're already running at that speed.
Gotcha.
I heard a song by this band called Allem Witches, I think. One of the other recent pickups I had.
I just got it from my algorithm Monday.
They had a banger of a tune, as my English friends say. I forget the song name. Let me find it real quick. But I guess that's country, or country western. But, it's not exactly rock. But, man, those guys really dished it out. Like, the complexity of what they did, the layering, kind of reminds me of when I was a kid listening to the early Metallica stuff, when they were more complex and doing longer pieces and trying to basically they were basically doing classical metal, if you think about it.
Yeah, I understand.
Versus a blues metal or something like that, right?
So how do you know those words, layering and bass? One of your tobaccos, it says there's a bass pedal. Like, no, not many people I know, other than musicians, know what a bass pedal is.
Well, they might look it up and find out from that.
I guess, but I'm just saying.
I
How
like
do you know that?
Well, I'm like you. I'm old and I know things.